On Wednesday, 11 May 2016, Ramon Ray, editor of Smart Hustle magazine, was invited to be an expert witness to the Congressional Committee on Small Business in Washington, D.C. Here's the chairman and ranking member's opening statement and the questions from the representatives and the answers given by Ramon.
Good morning. Committee will come to order. I want to thank all the witnesses for being here, and we'll get to you very shortly. Last week, our country recognized National Small Business Week, a time when small businesses and entrepreneurs are celebrated for the tremendous impact that they have on every community all across America. Setting aside a week to highlight the importance of small businesses serves as a reminder as to how crucial they are to our national prosperity and economic security. Here at the House Small Business Committee, we are reminded of this every day. It's often said that when small businesses succeed, America succeeds. At the very heart of small businesses, what allows them to succeed are the people, the men and women of this country who set out with an idea and the desire to turn that idea into a reality. It's this enduring spirit of American innovation that continues to breathe life into our economy and create the jobs no government program can. Today, the committee is excited to have before it what is truly an expert panel. Our witnesses today are prominent and passionate voices in the small business community all across America. Each of our witnesses have taken the lessons learned from building their own businesses and provide guidance to small business owners and aspiring entrepreneurs. The difference between a good idea and a good business is execution. And who do America's small businesses turn to for help developing and executing a business plan? They turn to J.J. Ramberg, to Ramon Ray, to Susan Solovic. I apologize. They pronounce it correctly, and they turn to her. And to Melinda Emerson. And so today, so do we. Through their work, our witnesses have helped to inspire and shape countless small businesses all across America. They have their fingers on the small business pulse and can offer unique perspectives as to the challenges small businesses owners face every day. This committee is eager to hear more about the great work our witnesses are doing to help small businesses and grow the conversation of small business success stories. I'd like to thank all the witnesses for coming here today. We will stop talking soon and turn to you all and we'll listen. But at this point, I would like to yield to our ranking member, Ms. Velasquez, for her opening remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our nation's culture, character, and economy have always been defined by entrepreneurship. Today, 28 million small firms drive growth and create opportunity in major cities, rural areas, and every community in between. Small businesses employ over half of all private sector employees. Their hard work, innovation, and ingenuity to create new products and open new markets contributes to all economic sectors. However, forming a new business is an inherently risky undertaking, and there are many obstacles entrepreneurs face when getting started, from accessing capital to navigating an uncertain tax code to managing operations to understanding the regulatory landscape. It is not as simple as it once was to start a small business. As a result, we have seen the face of small businesses change. Small businesses have always been dynamic, but in today's world, that rate of change is accelerating. Many entrepreneurs no longer choose the traditional brick-and-mortar business model. Instead, they opt for sole proprietorship and online models that provide greater flexibility. These structures allow many entrepreneurs to launch a new venture while avoiding risks like sales revenue or cash flow that are primary concerns for more traditional firms. We're also seeing the face of entrepreneurship evolve to more accurately reflect our nation's diversity. The rate of minority and women-owned small business growth continues outpacing other business growth. Released last year, the 2012 survey of business owners found that the percentage of minority-owned firms increased from 22% to 29% over a 5-year period. Meanwhile, the number of other businesses declined by 1.1 million. Women-owned firms also experienced higher growth rates than their male counterparts, as their market share increased by more than 2 million firms. These are positive trends, but minority and women-owned firms continue facing barriers to formation and growth. They find it harder to secure financing and often face unfair treatment in the marketplace from potential customers and vendors. If the economy is to benefit from the high rates of business formation and the job creation that follows, more must be done to ensure hurdles like these are removed. One role for this committee is ensuring these firms can access resources to overcome those barriers and expand opportunities for all Americans. In more than 2 decades on this committee, I have seen firsthand the ingenuity and resilience of small business owners, not only in my district, but across the nation. These firms can accomplish great things if they have the right tools. During today's hearing, some of the country's leading small business experts and advocates can provide us with useful guidance on how to better accomplish that goal. In that regard, I want to thank all the witnesses who traveled here today for their participation and valuable perspective. Thank you again, Mr. Chairman, and I yield back.
Thank you. Our second witness will be Ramon Ray. Mr. Ray is an entrepreneur, keynote speaker, author, journalist, and publisher of Smart Hustle magazine. This magazine is dedicated to telling the journey of entrepreneurs and small businesses. Mr. Ray's specialty is in working with small businesses to help them grow by better utilizing technology and marketing. Mr. Ray has traveled the nation speaking at and hosting events designed to help small business owners and entrepreneurs grow their business.
Because the more attention we can pay, the more focus we can put on both the challenges of small businesses and the success of small business and the contributions of small business owners, the more we can support this very incredibly important part of our economy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Mr. Ray, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. I'd also like to acknowledge my wife of 22 years, who's there, and my daughter. Oh, sorry, thank you. I'd like to acknowledge my wife of 22 years and my daughter Charity, who's over there to my left as well. And it's good to be amongst friends and experts who I've learned from over the years. Chairman Chabot, Ranking Member Velasquez, thank you for inviting me to represent America's small business owners and entrepreneurs at this committee hearing. I'd also like to extend a great warm greeting to the representatives from New Jersey, where I live, near Newark Airport, and those from New York, where I grew up in Brooklyn. So it's nice to see you all here as well. Starting and growing a business, as we've talked, as you all know.
You're making a lot of friends.
Oh, great. Starting and growing a business is fraught with challenges, as many of us know. I've started 4 businesses, and I've been blessed to be able to sell one of them, on the way to selling the second one. I'm an entrepreneur who is currently growing 2 companies, and one of those companies is Smart Hustle magazine. The day-to-day challenges of business ownership includes, of course, hiring the right staff, obtaining financing, trying to get new customers, and maybe we can keep the ones we have. And also, of course, navigating government regulations and so much more. Business ownership, it's not, of course, just about the challenges, but as many of us here on this witness know, it also comes with the sweet taste of independence, the freedom to chart our own course, the privilege of helping others with our income, and of course, earning the profitable rewards from the risks that so many small business owners and entrepreneurs take day to day. And I think the greatest reward is the awesome responsibility of providing for our families and supporting our communities, which I know all of us here do. So Chairman Chabot and fellow committee members, more important, I think, than any of us in this room, of course, are the thousands and thousands of small business owners who I'm privileged to speak to across the country on a yearly basis, and the millions of small business owners that I'm able to touch through events, through conferences, being on JJ's show, Twitter chats, and etc. So based on the input from this community, and I did ask, what should I tell the committee? There's 3 recommendations that they would like me to express to you today. Many of them you know, many of them you've heard, but I hope this helps to underline them. I think first is definitely a continued reduction of burdensome and I would say unnecessary regulation, sure at the federal level, but let's also try to work and help at the local and state level as well. We need regulation, absolutely, for our safety. Please make sure the plane I'm flying on tomorrow is safe. But I wonder, we don't need burdensome or unnecessary regulation. And I think as an example that we've seen, in my opinion, the treatment of Uber as an example. It's now a very big company, but I think that aspect at a very local level of stifling innovation and limiting growth is an example of what I think small businesses don't need. A second, I would say the reduction and simplification of taxes. I count it as a privilege that I can pay taxes, which from my hard-earned income help to fund our awesome government. However, I would dare say, is there not a limit to what taxes and tax laws are fair versus which ones are excessive and burdensome? Every year, I pay thousands of dollars. Now, not as much as JJ and Melinda and Susan pay, but because they have a lot more money. But every year, I pay thousands and thousands of dollars in taxes. And I would rather reduce the taxes I pay and instead use those funds to grow my business and invest in my community. Thus, as we've said, which is investing in America. And the third aspect, the third thing that my community has said, please tell the House of Representatives, please tell the Congress men and women. Third is to foster small business education. I applaud the great work of the Small Business Administration of SCORE that I benefited from many years ago. 26 Federal Plaza, that's where I went to. SBDCs and other government-supported organizations. They support and educate small business owners. And I think the more we can invest in the education of business owners, the more we ensure that less businesses will fail and more will succeed. In particular, I applaud the great work of the New York City Department of Small Business Services. It happens to be in my backyard, but a great model, I think, that many local governments can follow. Private and for-profit education efforts, such as the Goldman Sachs 10,000, Google's Get Your Business Online, Microsoft Small Business Academy, Kauffman Foundation, and many more. These are examples of not government organization, but still in the whole sphere of educating small business owners. I was recently speaking with Robert Herjavec of Shark Tank, and we discussed that all businesses hustle. They all work hard. They grind. We all work hard. However, it's those who are educated, and I think education is so important, who have smart hustle, who succeed. Educating business owners is essential. As I conclude my statement, I think of a company like Infusionsoft, which was started by 3 friends in a strip mall, or a company like Sumo Me, started by someone who was fired by Facebook there in Austin, Texas. These companies, my company, and millions of other small businesses, they need to be encouraged to start, grow, and thrive. So I would say, let's think about the husband and wife who've just started their business together. What can we do to help them? Or a high school graduate who's now working on an invention right now to put me out of business, unfortunately. Or the laid-off 50-year-old who's forced to begin their own business. The best thing our government can do for small business owners, as I conclude, is to limit regulation, lower and simplify taxes, and continue to invest in the education of small business owners at the local, state, and federal level. Thank you very much for the opportunity to share about the hustle, as I often like to say, the smart hustle of entrepreneurship in America. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. It's not very often that we get called awesome around here. I can so, but thank you. I have to say, as chair of this committee, if this isn't the best testimony we've had from a panel, it's certainly out or near the top. Well done. All 4 of you were great. I kept thinking, that was great, and then that was maybe even better, and it just this was really, really good. So well done. Yeah. Mr. Ray, I'll go to you next. I had a prepared question, but I thought of something I thought would be more interesting. So I'm going to ask you something maybe a little off the wall, but I had the opportunity to meet not only with you in my office before this, but also with your beautiful wife and your daughter Charity. And I don't know if Charity is interested in going into small business someday, but if you had to give her advice on how to be successful down the road, how to prepare yourself, and what kind of things you ought to be thinking about if you want to be successful in life or small business, what would you tell your daughter?
I do advise her quite a bit to her angst, unsolicited. And I think there's a few things. And it's interesting you asked that, because that's a question that many people ask me. You see me on stage and et cetera, and it's very simple. I think one, and this is not really small business advice, but for me, I find just being nice to people, and making connections, because there's some people who you come in contact with, I'm sure we've all met them, there are some slime bucket, nasty people out there. And you can't succeed unless you have a smile or a nice. That's one.
That's kind of similar to the field that most of us are in up here, too. We would never say which ones are category, but people usually figure that out on their own.
And the second thing I share with my daughter, you can ask her, I share with her and my son as well, make connections. Because the only thing different from me being here today, or we're on the panel, and anybody else, is the connections I've made. So being nice, making connections, looking for and taking advantage of opportunities. And I think the third thing I would say is that going back to the grit or the hustle, the hard work, is love to be punched in the face, get back up, ask for more, but learn. So my point is being able to innovate. You're not going to get it right the first time. Those are the three things I would say.
Mr. Ray, for those businesses without large operating budgets, word of mouth advertising is all they have. What more can be done to bring together small businesses and end users of their products?
One of the things, thank you for asking the question. I think one of the things I talk about a lot is personal branding. I don't have a lot of money, didn't have a lot of money. Well, I don't know if I have a lot of money or not, Ronnie. I have my wife. But my point is I didn't have a lot of money.
Just for the record, his wife is shaking her head. No, they don't have a lot of money. Or not enough. Never enough.
Yes, and Ranking Member Velasquez, I think the biggest thing is building their personal brand. I think you need money, that's helpful. But those who don't, if you network like heck, if you build your personal brand, leverage the power of social content, video, you can rock it and do quite a bit. I've built my brand quite a bit with just a video camera, my smartphone, and just tweeting.
Mr. Ray,
Yes, sir.
you talked about one of the things that you're talking about here is reduction and simplification of taxes. Can you give me some example of where you'd like to see some reduction and simplification, how it would work, and what the advantage would be to small businesses?
Sure. Having said that, I'm not a tax expert by far. I'm a personal branding expert.
Again, we want your ideas.
Yes.
You're the entrepreneur
Yes.
here. We're the guys that are supposed to make this all happen. Right?
I went through a tax audit a few years ago. When the IRS called me, she had a Southern accent, so I assumed that she was my friend and she was the best person in the world. So she said, Mr. Ray, we'd like to come to your home and all this. And IRS is great. They do great work. We need to pay our taxes. But my point being is that I wish that half the problem was my own. I wish that I had better advice and taken better advice, as many of us said. So that's one. But point two, just going through that process, the arduous process of the letters and the writing and the audit, it was exhausting. Thankfully, I had my tax attorney. We had to go through it. So by that, what I mean is that my industry is just content. But imagine the industries that deal with other things, manufacturing, et cetera. There's a lot of things they have to go through just to pay taxes. If they don't do it right, then there's things they have to go through to get it right. So that's the example of what I mean by making it a bit easier for small businesses to pay taxes and to rectify if something goes wrong.
Well, I was just going to ask those of you who are here today, how can we get more women to start businesses? What should this committee and SBA do to address a problem that you might see happening out there? And I'd be interested in hearing all of your responses to this.
I would just add and say two things, being the minority on the panel here of women, no pun intended. I would say two things. I would say, one, the focus could be not only in starting businesses, but I would encourage my women friends, also those who've already started, how can we encourage them to grow? So, the number of who's starting, but let's say starting or not, those who are in it, what can we do to succeed that? And two, I would say working with small business owners in large, many of them women entrepreneurs, I would say also there has to be some element of, without putting my foot in my mouth, getting out of the bubble of just being for women, if that makes sense. Meaning, I talk to many women entrepreneurs. I'm a women-owned business, and it's for women. I do something for women, where this world is beyond just women. You know what I mean? So it's kind of reverse.
It is?
Sometimes it's in a
Are
bubble.
you sure about that?
Yeah.
I know. I didn't.
Does that make sense what I'm trying to express?
I'm not going to touch this debate here.
Did I say that okay?
This was great. The gentleman from New York, Mr. Gibson, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Well, thanks, Mr. Chairman. I must say this is an awesome hearing. I am learning a lot, and I'm really inspired, and appreciate that very much. And I know our middle daughter, who's interested in going into business, she's going to find this link very informative and inspiring. And I think she'll probably be looking up some of your shows and everything like that going forward. Mr. Ray, I was very interested to hear your comment. You were using Uber as an example, really as a sort of a counterexample. And what I'd like to hear is your thoughts on, if we had a do-over, how might federal and state, perhaps even local, governments approach that issue in a manner that would certainly make sure that justice, safety, and public health is preserved, but at the same time really facilitates a good idea that's something that's really being demanded in the market?
Being the travel expert that I am not, From my observation, as one who's used Uber before, and taking them an example, then I'll move quickly to another point, but as one who's used Uber and one who's used taxis, and there's both sides of this equation. We know there's a public debate, good and bad, and et cetera. Regulation obviously is important. But I think what I found, at least in New York, being a few minutes from Newark Airport, is that you have the taxi industry that was the one bemoaning and complaining and et cetera about it, which has a valid point. New York City, a lot of big taxi industry. But I just think I saw that with Uber. This is a small, innovative company. This is a car-sharing service. Small business owners. When I go to Newark Airport from my home, there's guys who say, I'm using Uber to make more money. So just from my simple observation, clearly it's a company that is helping in some way, and we could do more. Mayor Baraka, I think in Newark, he made a deal with them. So I think we could do more to ensure citizens are protected, but while having innovation go as much as it can until it becomes a danger, like the airlines or something that has to have some, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's helpful. Well, unfortunately, my time has expired. I just want to congratulate each and every one of you on your personal successes, and also thank you for sharing those stories, for inspiring so many others. Chairman, I thank you for your indulgence.
Thank you very
yield.
much. Gentleman's time's expired. The gentleman from Mississippi, Mr. Kelly, is recognized for 5 minutes.
You know, I'm starstruck with this panel. Thank you guys for being here. Mr. Chairman, thank you for bringing such a distinguished panel, and it's great to hear from. First of all, you're all excited about what you do, and I think enthusiasm is one of those things that any business or whatever you're doing, that you have to have enthusiasm. And to see people like you, you're all role models for people out there. So thank you for being here and for what you've done for small businesses in our industry. Mr. Ray, I want to just briefly touch with you, and I hadn't intended to ask you a question, but I'm so appreciative that you brought your family, because it's much like serving in the military or anything else. Whether you're a small business or anything else, it's a family deal. You're all involved and engaged, not using someone else's name like other people have mentioned, but to have people who are involved and they're a part of that. And you gave your daughter some great advice. I found in life relationships and leveraging those and understanding those is one of the greatest things you can ever have, is the capital in people. So do you want to comment any more on that, Mr. Ray?
To thank you for having us, and I think that, yes, family is important. I think that two things I would say: education, as we've said, education solves many problems, but definitely family. And I think, thank God for my wife. Not that she's always right. But she.
Well, it's going to be a long ride home.
However, she is right most of the time, and I'm very happy that she's given me advice in business, but also the things around business that make us successful. So I'm very thankful for her.
Mr. Ray, and this is the last question, what are some of the challenges that you face in the competition with the corporates? I hear that often. I'm a small business. I'm just keep jumping up, raising my hand. Look at me, I can do it. What are some of the challenges there?
It is very competitive. For example, I produce events, or I have a magazine. There's a lot of bigger companies than myself. And I think that sometimes it's the wherewithal to keep pushing through. I think that's one. I think, two, it's the business owner not having the education to talk the language of the large business person. And that's what I've learned, which has helped me. So I'm talking to a big company, I won't mention them here, but big courier, or big financial services company, big bank. There's ways I have to talk. There's documents I have to have. They're risk averse. They don't know who I am from Adam, or Eve, for that matter. So those are the two things that I found that will be helpful. The small business owner must learn to talk the language of big business and not think small, as you've alluded to. That's the way to succeed. Thank you.
I hear clearly the need for information and training, and I love the analysis of not being alone and having access to those. So thank you. I yield back.
Thank you very much. The gentleman's time's expired. The gentleman from Nevada, Mr. Hardy, who's the subcommittee chairman of Investigations, Oversight, and Regulations, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for being here. I must say that I believe that Mr. Ray, your father and mine, must have hung out together, because my dad used to tell me, son, you can do it and like it, or you can do it and hate it. Either way you're going to do it, your attitude determines.
Yeah, I think they did hang out together. I think so.
Your altitude. So all of you seem to have great attitude. I think that is part of the success. Myself, being a small business person in the past, had some successes, had some challenges. One of the challenges that I believe have caused a lot of that you brought up, Mr. Ray, and also Ms. Ramberg, that the federal government and regulations, this duplicative regulations coming from not just from the federal government, from the state governments, from the county governments, the city governments. Can you elaborate on that a little bit, Mr. Ray? What's your conversation there?
Absolutely. Sure. What I think, as you said, is that there's a labyrinth of different things. If I do it right this way, it's wrong this way. Right this way, wrong this way. And the best example I can give, I think, being, again, with New York City in my backyard, I know the New York City Department of Small Business Services, I think it's called Fast Track. I don't recall the exact name, but they have a system where they set up where you go to one place and the organizations, the entities are all in kind of one place. So that's an example of something that can help, where you go there, fill out a form. Other people in the civil servants are trained to help you navigate through that. Because if you're not trained or educated, and all of us are just experts on what we're doing, it's tough. It was tough to get in this building, much less, being a small business owner. I just wanted to underline that. Thank you for asking the question. Is that just to underline, it's a double problem because, again, your money comes in late and you have big checks, 20,000, 30,000, to a million that has 100,000 checks, and you have to pay out. I just got an email last night from one of my vendors who I work with. Ramon, I sent you an invoice for $1,000. I need that money. Can you get it to me? I'm going to forward that money to him tonight. But the money that's coming in from me is going to take 45, 30, 90 days. So I just want to underline it. It's jamming me up.
Say when it comes to the corporations, I mean, even in the agreements that I sign with them now, they'll just put 90 days.
Absolutely.
And you've got to float that money, and it's tough on us.
The gentleman's time's expired. The gentlelady from American Samoa, Matarawagan, is recognized for 5 minutes, and she's a subcommittee chairman on health and technology.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This has been really fascinating. I've learned so much today. I have a question for all of you. It's just the same question. Maybe we could start with Ms. Ramberg. What are some of the things that can be done to inspire the next generation of entrepreneurs?
So thank you for the question. And my answer to that would be, I think, just keep doing more of what we're doing here and keep providing platforms. I mean, the four of us, we've reached a level of success, but I think that there's that cult of entrepreneurship. And I think, what can we do to go to the inner cities? Those who are not yet inspired, who think they can't do it, I would just add that. How can we go maybe to small islands, et cetera, and help inspire them more and more and more? So thank you for the question. May I add one more thing to this? May I answer one more? I would just wanted to add, ma'am, and say also that I think that, not to be the contrarian, but small business entrepreneurship is difficult. So I think it could be interesting to highlight it, but so people can see, you know what, this is not for me. Let me go, I don't know, work in Congress or something like that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I'm just teasing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
We hope you are. Yeah. The gentlelady yields back. So I think all the questions have been asked and answered. And as chair of the committee, I just want to thank you all for your testimony here today. It's been very inspiring. I know that we've all learned a lot. In fact, we've decided to have you all come back every week from now on. Yeah, but we really do appreciate it. And I think Chris Gibson, the gentleman from New York who's left at this point, but I think he mentioned he was going to have his daughter watch this, who's an aspiring entrepreneur maybe down the road. And I would recommend that our crack staff tries to get this out, because I think a lot of small businesses all over America, whether they're thinking about starting a small business or whether they already have one and they are looking for ways to improve it, I think there were just pearls of wisdom here that we don't want to just go off into the ether. You've all really done a great job, and thank you so much. I think you've done your country a great service. You really have. So thank you very much for this morning, and I would ask unanimous consent that members have 5 legislative days to submit statements and supporting materials for the record. Without objection, so ordered. And if there's no further business to come before the hearing, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.